Fall back. Fall back immediately. Lieutenant Commander Blake Viper Kennedy screamed into his radio as SEAL Team Alpha took devastating losses in the rugged mountain terrain. 25 hostile fighters and 2 high-ranking enemy commanders had them completely surrounded in a perfectly executed ambush. The mission was over. Retreat was the only option for survival. But as her teammates prepared to abandon their position under heavy fire, Staff Sergeant Megan Fury Wright grabbed her M416 assault rifle and stood up in the middle of the kill zone. "I'm not running from these bastards," she said quietly. 4 minutes later, all 27 enemies were dead, and Megan was planting the American flag on their position. Staff Sergeant Megan Wright was 28 years old, Montana, with ice blue eyes that could calculate distance and windage faster than most computers. What they had expected to be a small training camp turned out to be a major enemy operational base with over 30 fighters, heavy weapons, and defensive positions that had been prepared specifically to trap American special forces. SEAL Team Alpha walked into a kill zone designed by tactical minds that understood how elite units operated. "Contact! Contact from elevated positions!" Kennedy's voice exploded across the radio frequency as automatic weapons fire erupted from concealed fighting positions. "We're taking coordinated fire from multiple vectors." Megan immediately acquired targets from her overwatch position. Through the advanced optics on her M416, she could see enemy fighters moving through prepared positions while her teammates scrambled for whatever cover they could find. Her first controlled burst dropped 2 fighters attempting to flank their northern approach. Her second eliminated a machine gun crew that was pouring suppressive fire into SA positions. "Fury, we need immediate suppression on the western ridge," Kennedy transmitted between bursts of return fire. "They've got us completely bracketed." Megan was already engaging targets on the high ground. Her M416 spoke in controlled 3-round bursts, each one finding its mark with a precision that had made her legendary among special operations marksmen. For 18 minutes, she methodically reduced enemy numbers while SEAL Team Alpha fought to establish any kind of defensive perimeter. That's when the rocket-propelled grenades started falling. "RPG, take cover!" Petty Officer First Class Derek Hammer Rodriguez screamed as Soviet-era rocket launchers began targeting their positions. But this was not random fire. The enemy was using trained operators to direct precise strikes on American positions. They'd studied SEAL tactics and knew exactly how to counter them. The first rocket-propelled grenade struck 20 meters from their position, showering the team with rock fragments and debris. The second was closer. The third eliminated their communications specialists and severed contact with base command. Without coordination or support, SEAL Team Alpha was fighting for survival against overwhelming odds. "Viper, we've got movement from the eastern approach," Chief Petty Officer Lisa Phoenix Chen transmitted from her position behind a boulder formation. "At least 12 fighters moving to complete the encirclement." Kennedy assessed their tactical situation with the cold calculation of a professional warrior. They were outnumbered nearly 4-1, cut off from support, and facing enemies who knew the terrain better than they did. The smart decision, the only decision that gave his team a chance of survival, was immediate withdrawal. "All units, prepare for tactical withdrawal," Kennedy ordered. "We're moving to extraction point Bravo in 90 seconds. But 90 seconds was longer than they had. The enemy commanders had positioned their forces perfectly. Colonel Alexei Petrov and his operational deputy, Colonel Ivan Fedorov, were former Russian military intelligence officers who understood American special operations better than most Americans. They designed this ambush specifically to trap and eliminate an entire SEAL team. "Viper, they're blocking the extraction route," Senior Chief Petty Officer Marcus Ghost Thompson reported. "We've got shooters on the high ground controlling our withdrawal path." Kennedy looked around at his team. 9 of the most elite warriors in the American military, pinned down by an enemy that had outmaneuvered them completely. The tactical situation was hopeless. Staying meant certain death. Attempting withdrawal under fire would result in catastrophic casualties. All units, fall back immediately, he ordered, fighting withdrawal to secondary extraction point. As SEAL Team Alpha prepared to abandon their position under withering enemy fire, Megan Wright made the decision that would define the rest of her military career. "Fury, what the hell are you doing?" Kennedy's voice crackled through her headset. "Get back here. That's a direct order." Megan keyed her radio one time. "Viper, get the team out of here. I'm going to solve our tactical problem." "Negative. We don't leave anyone behind." "You're not leaving me behind," Megan replied, her voice carrying the calm determination that had become familiar to her teammates. "I'm going to clear the extraction route." The enemy position was a fortified complex built into the mountainside, with reinforced walls, prepared firing positions, and overlapping fields of fire designed to cut down any frontal assault. Military doctrine stated that attacking such a position required at least a 4-to-1 numerical advantage, air support, and artillery preparation. Megan Wright had none of those things. What she did have was an M416 loaded with 210 rounds of 5.56 NATO ammunition, 2.5 years of combat experience, and the absolute certainty that her brothers needed that extraction route cleared. The attack began from an angle no enemy commander would have expected. Directly through the center of their interlocking fields of fire, using movement and precision shooting to turn their own defensive positions against them. Megan's first targets were the forward observers who had been directing RPG fire on her team. 2 quick bursts from her M416 eliminated the spotters, ending the indirect fire threat immediately. Enemy fighters turned their attention toward this impossible assault, giving SEAL Team Alpha the opportunity they needed to begin their withdrawal. "Single American operator attacking our main position," came the panic radio transmission from enemy forces. "All available units, engage immediately." But engaging Megan Wright was easier planned than executed. She moved through the mountainous terrain like smoke through a forest, using every piece of cover, every shadow, every tactical advantage that 2.5 years of combat experience had taught her. Her M416 spoke with mechanical precision, controlled bursts, target acquisition, movement, repeat. Every burst found its mark. The first enemy soldier died while trying to coordinate with his squad leader. The second managed to fire a burst that went wide by 3 meters. The third never knew she was there until her muzzle flash lit up his position. Megan was using movement and terrain mastery to turn a hopeless assault into a series of individual engagements that she could control. "She's flanking the northern bunker," an enemy voice screamed over intercepted radio frequencies. "How is she moving through our kill zone?" The answer was training that had pushed her beyond normal human limitations, combined with equipment that responded to her will as naturally as her own reflexes. Megan's M416 had been customized specifically for her combat style. Shortened barrel for close quarters maneuverability, enhanced optics for rapid target acquisition, modified trigger group for precise semi-automatic fire. By the time enemy forces realized what was happening, Megan had eliminated 10 fighters and was moving toward their command position, where the 2 colonels were coordinating the battle. Colonel Petro grabbed his radio with hands that trembled slightly. "All units, converge on the American position. Do not allow her to reach the command bunker." But Megan was already there. The assault on the command position came from the blind spot that every defensive complex possesses, the angle that seems impossible to attack from because it requires crossing open ground under direct observation. Megan crossed that ground in 12 seconds, her M416 providing suppressive fire that kept heads down while she closed the distance. The entrance to the command bunker was reinforced concrete, designed to withstand small arms fire and explosive charges. Megan didn't try to breach it. Instead, she positioned herself adjacent to the entrance and waited with tactical patience. When Colonel Fedorov stepped outside to assess the tactical situation, Megan's M416 was waiting for him. 3 rounds, center mass, and the enemy deputy commander dropped without firing a shot. "Fedorov is down. Repeat, Colonel Fedorov is KIA," came the panicked transmission from inside the bunker. Colonel Petro made the mistake of trying to coordinate his forces from outside the protective position. When he emerged to direct his fighters personally, Megan was ready. Her M416 spoke twice. One round that shattered his radio, one round that ended his command permanently. With both enemy commanders eliminated, the tactical situation collapsed for hostile forces. Without coordination, their overwhelming numerical advantage became irrelevant. Individual fighters found themselves engaging an enemy who seemed to be everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles with lethal precision. Megan continued her assault through the enemy complex, her M416 speaking in controlled bursts that eliminated threats systematically. Each enemy position fell to tactics they couldn't counter. Movement, precision fire, and absolute determination to complete the mission. The ammunition counter on her M416 showed 55 rounds remaining when she reached the final defensive position. 15 enemy fighters had concentrated their forces in the highest bunker, hoping to make a last stand that would at least eliminate the American operator who had destroyed their entire defensive plan. Megan approached from below using dead space that couldn't be covered by their firing positions. When she appeared at close range, her M416 was already tracking multiple targets. 15 controlled bursts in 18 seconds, and the mountain fell silent. The tactical assessment was devastating for enemy forces. 25 fighters eliminated, 2 colonels killed in action, command structure destroyed, defensive positions overrun by a single American operator using small arms fire and individual tactics that weren't supposed to exist. But Megan wasn't finished. At the highest point of the enemy complex, a flagpole displayed the colors of whatever nation or organization had trained and equipped these forces. Megan pulled down their banner and replaced it with an American flag she'd carried in her assault pack, the same flag that had covered her grandfather's casket when he died serving his country in Vietnam. As the stars and stripes rose above the captured position, Megan keyed her radio for the final transmission of the operation. "Viper, this is Fury. Extraction route is clear. All hostiles eliminated. 27 KIA confirmed. The high ground belongs to us now." The radio silence lasted for 45 seconds. "Fury?" Kennedy's voice carried disbelief mixed with professional amazement. "Report your current status. Operational and ready for extraction. I'll mark our position with smoke for helicopter pickup." "Fury, how the hell did you just clear an entire enemy complex by yourself?" Megan looked around at the enemy positions that had been designed to trap and eliminate an entire SEAL team. Bodies of enemy fighters lay scattered throughout bunkers that should have been impregnable to individual assault. "I didn't clear their complex. I just decided it was our complex now." The extraction helicopter arrived 30 minutes later, guided by the smoke grenade Megan had deployed from the highest point of what was now American-controlled territory. When SEAL Team Alpha climbed aboard, they found their teammate calmly field-stripping her M416 while sitting beneath the American flag she'd planted on enemy ground. Lieutenant Commander Kennedy sat down next to Megan as the helicopter lifted off from the mountain terrain. "Fury, what you accomplished back there, that's going to be written into every special operations manual in the military." "I just cleared the extraction route like you needed," Megan replied quietly. "The team had to get out safely. I made sure that happened. You turned a complete tactical disaster into total victory, single-handedly." Megan looked out the helicopter window at the flag still flying from the mountain peak below. "Viper, Americans don't abandon ground to the enemy without a fight. If they want to control terrain, they need to be prepared to pay for it. The after-action report filed by Lieutenant Commander Kennedy became required study material for Special Operations Command staffs throughout the military. The tactical analysis was unprecedented. One operator with standard equipment had successfully assaulted and captured a fortified complex defended by overwhelming numerical superiority. But the numbers only told part of the story. 4 weeks later, Megan Wright was back at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek, officially recovering from minor injuries sustained during the operation, but unofficially planning her return to active deployment. The Pentagon wanted her to accept an instructor position. Her commanding officers wanted her to develop new individual tactics curricula. Military analysts wanted to study her techniques for integration into advanced training programs. Megan wanted to get back to her team. "You could have died out there," Kennedy told her during their first meeting after the mission. "You had every tactical reason to withdraw with the team. Nobody would have questioned following direct orders." But 27 enemies would still be controlling that terrain, and they'd be planning their next ambush against the next American unit that walked into their kill zone, Wright replied. Sometimes completing the mission requires going beyond the original orders. Kennedy studied his teammate with newfound respect. "Fury, you've redefined what's tactically possible for individual operators. What you accomplished exceeds anything in our doctrinal framework." "Then maybe our doctrinal framework needs some updates," Wright said simply. 7 months later, Staff Sergeant Megan Fury Wright was back in operational theater, leading SEAL missions in multiple regions where her innovative tactics had proven that individual determination could overcome systemic disadvantages. Her M416 had been retired to the SEAL Museum, replaced by an identical weapon that carried the same modifications and the same expectation of impossible precision. But among the operators she served with, Megan was known for something more important than tactical innovation. She was the warrior who proved that mission completion always took priority, that American terrain was never abandoned without maximum effort, and that sometimes one person with the right training could change the entire outcome of an engagement. The techniques Megan developed during that mountain assault became part of advanced SEAL training curricula. Military instructors teach courses on single-operator complex curing and individual assault tactics based on her methods, but they also teach something more fundamental, that elite warriors are defined not by their equipment or their numerical advantage, but by their willingness to do whatever mission completion requires. Have you ever witnessed someone turn certain defeat into impossible victory through pure determination and tactical skill? 18 months after the mountain operation, Megan received the Navy Cross for her actions during the engagement. The citation read, "For extraordinary heroism and conspicuous gallantry while serving with a Navy SEAL element during combat operations against numerically superior enemy forces." Staff Sergeant Wright's exceptional tactical proficiency, innovative combat techniques, and unwavering dedication to her teammates resulted in the elimination of significant enemy resistance and the capture of strategic terrain. The ceremony was held at Naval Amphibious Base Little Creek, attended by Megan's family, her SEAL teammates, and senior military leadership from multiple commands. But the moment that mattered most came afterward, when Kennedy approached Megan for a private conversation. "Fury, I need to tell you something. When you made that decision to assault their complex alone, I thought I was watching tactical suicide. But now I realize I was watching the birth of a new approach to special operations." Viper, new approaches are just old principles applied to situations that demand creative solutions. The mission always comes first. The impact of Megan's actions extended far beyond that single engagement. Intelligence recovered from enemy commanders led to the disruption of multiple hostile training programs and the identification of several high-value targets. The psychological effect on enemy forces was significant. Knowing that American special operators could turn retreat scenarios into assault victories created operational uncertainty that affected enemy planning throughout the theater. But perhaps the most important result was what Megan's decision meant to the SEALs who served with her. They learned that tactical doctrine provided guidance, not limitations. They discovered that individual initiative, properly applied, could overcome overwhelming odds when combined with superior training and absolute mission focus. Petty Officer First Class Sarah Venom Parker, a SEAL operator who trained under Megan after her return, explained it clearly. Fury taught us that sometimes the most effective way to follow orders is to exceed them completely. When mission success requires going beyond standard procedures, elite operators find ways to succeed while maintaining operational integrity. The mountain complex Megan had captured was eventually determined to be strategically irrelevant for long-term operations, but the American flag she'd planted there remained until environmental conditions finally claimed it. Intelligence sources reported that for months afterward, enemy forces avoided the area, referring to it as the place where the American storm lives. Megan continued serving with SEAL Team Alpha for 3 more deployment cycles, participating in operations where her innovative individual tactics repeatedly transformed potential mission failures into decisive operational successes. She never again found herself in a situation requiring single-operator complex assault, but she faced numerous challenges that demanded creative solutions to seemingly impossible tactical problems. In each case, she found ways to complete mission objectives while ensuring her teammates returned safely. The thing about Fury, Kennedy explained to new SEAL operators during advanced training sessions, is that she doesn't recognize the word impossible as applicable to mission parameters. When we thought we had to retreat, she found a way to advance. When we faced overwhelming opposition, she found a way to eliminate that opposition. That's what separates truly exceptional warriors from merely competent ones: the refusal to accept mission failure as inevitable. 3 years after the mountain engagement, Megan Wright was promoted to Chief Petty Officer and assigned to establish the Individual Advanced Tactics Program at the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Her training facility became legendary among students, not only for the technical skills she taught, but for the operational mindset she instilled. Anyone can learn to operate military equipment effectively, she would tell each new class. The military will teach you to use weapon systems, to move tactically, to coordinate with teammates. But what the military cannot teach you is how to recognize when tactical situations require you to exceed every limitation you previously accepted. She would pause, observing faces eager to prove themselves in operational environments. The difference between competent operators and exceptional operators isn't equipment proficiency or physical capability. It's the ability to identify opportunities where others identify obstacles. It's the determination to complete missions when mission completion seems tactically impossible. Students invariably wanted to hear about the mountain assault, about the individual tactics that had eliminated 27 enemies and captured fortified terrain. Megan would share operational details, but she always concluded with the same fundamental lesson. I didn't survive that engagement because I possessed superior equipment or exceptional physical capabilities. I survived because I refused to accept that retreat was the only tactical option available. When my teammates needed secure extraction routes, I found a way to provide those routes. When enemies believed they had tactical control, I found a way to seize that control. She would make direct eye contact with each student. Every one of you will encounter situations where conventional responses lead to conventional results. Exceptional operators are those who find ways to achieve exceptional results when mission parameters demand excellence. Megan's instructional methods became the foundation for modern special operations individual tactics training. Her techniques were analyzed at military academies, incorporated into operational manuals, and taught to Allied special forces throughout the world. But her greatest contribution wasn't tactical, it was philosophical. She proved that individual initiative, properly trained and properly applied, could overcome systemic disadvantages and achieve strategic objectives that appeared impossible under conventional analysis. Years later, when military historians studied the evolution of special operations doctrine in the early 21st century, they would identify several pivotal engagements that shaped modern warfare theory. The mountain assault will be remembered as definitive proof that individual determination could overcome numerical superiority when combined with superior training and innovative tactical thinking. But among the SAS who served with Megan Wright, the lesson was simpler and more profound. Sometimes the most effective response to retreat orders is to advance so decisively that retreat becomes victory. The radio transmission that had seemed tactically impossible, one operator reporting the elimination of an entire enemy force and the capture of their terrain, became legendary throughout the special operations community. It represented the transformation of tactical disaster into strategic triumph through individual courage and creative problem-solving. Megan Wright had proven that sometimes the most important victories are achieved not by following established procedures, but by recognizing when established procedures need to be abandoned in favor of solutions that exceed conventional expectations. Fall back immediately had been the order. But Megan had interpreted that command as an opportunity to transform retreat into the most devastating counterattack the enemy would never anticipate. 27 enemies eliminated, strategic terrain captured, American flag planted on ground that it belonged to hostile forces 4 minutes earlier. Because sometimes the most effective way to fall back is to advance so aggressively that there's nothing left to fall back from. Megan Fury Wright didn't just survive an impossible tactical situation, she transformed it into a demonstration that individual American operators, properly trained and properly motivated, could overcome any obstacle when mission completion demanded extraordinary performance. And in proving that, she reminded everyone that the most powerful weapon in any warrior's arsenal isn't advanced technology or numerical superiority. It's the refusal to accept defeat when victory remains achievable through courage and tactical innovation. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this.